Shalom Havarim, James Trim here, and today I want to talk to you about a subject that comes up from time to time. You've probably encountered it yourself. When counter missionaries or people that are just sincerely even questioning, coming especially from a rabbinic Jewish standpoint, and say, well, Yeshua couldn't have been the Messiah because he didn't bring peace on earth. And they'll even quote a passage from Matthew and said where he says, I came not to bring peace but a sword. Matthew chapter 10 verse 34, think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace but a sword. And then they'll argue that he couldn't be the Messiah because the Messiah is supposed to bring an era of peace. So before we get started here today, I want to ask you to please consider donating to support this effort, these videos. We have a very unique calling, I believe, and but we need your financial support to make it happen. These videos are brought to you by you, and there are we don't get any funds from any denominations or sects or anything like that. Just you. Okay? So please consider donating. You can donate by clicking on the donate link in the video description below. Okay? Or by sending donations by PayPal to donations@wnae.org. And also please like our videos, subscribe to our channel, turn that little notifications bell on. We have reached 3,000 subscribers, which was what we were previously working towards, but of course you always keep going. So now we're looking to hit let's say 3,500 next, so let's work towards 3,500 subscribers. And also let us know what you think about the video in the comments. All of these things are things that YouTube looks at for the algorithm. The algorithm looks at to decide which videos it's going to recommend to people. And so it looks and sees, are people commenting? Is there discussion going on? Is this generating discussion? If it is, that's something that YouTube likes to see happening. And seems like maybe it's an interesting video that is driving discussion, and so that's one of the things the algorithm looks for. We have a very high like ratio on our videos. Sometimes it's up to 10%, which is extremely unusual. So we're very pleased with that, and YouTube looks at that as well. And of course, subscribers and all of these things. Also share these videos on social media with your friends, on Facebook, Twitter, etc. That way we can get more people watching the videos as well. So that's another way that you can help. Okay, so the passage that we're looking at, need to stop right here and say that like most of our videos, this one also has handouts where you can follow along. This is actually going to be one of our shorter videos. Our videos are however long they need to be. If they're too long, of course, we'll break them into parts. So the passage here, you can the handouts are in a link in the video description. It's a PDF file that you can just print out for yourself and follow along. So what we're talking about here is Matthew chapter 10, verse 34. Think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. And some counter missionaries, or even since people that are from Rabbinic Judaism, sincerely will say, hey, doesn't that disqualify him from being the Messiah right there? Because the Messiah is supposed to bring peace on earth. Now, we're going to do a whole video in the future on the two Messiah theory and the two comings of Messiah. Whereas the Messiah comes in his first coming to lowly and riding upon an ass to die and redeem Israel. And then there's a second Messiah, or a second coming of Messiah, we would say, called Messiah ben David. The first is called Messiah ben Yosef. The second is called Messiah ben David. Messiah ben Yosef is called Messiah ben Yosef because he is like the patriarch Joseph that was cast into a pit and then raised up out of the pit, and he was sold for 20 pieces of silver, and he was then went on to redeem his brothers after that having happened. And then there's Messiah ben David, who comes with power and glory, riding upon the clouds to reign from David's throne forever. He's the one that brings peace on earth. Or this is the coming that brings peace on earth for 1,000 years. But the first coming of Messiah isn't really like that. Or the coming of Messiah ben Yosef isn't really like that. And the whole quote, taken in context, is Matthew chapter 10, verses 34 through 36. And this is on the first page of our handouts. So verse 34 says, "Think not that I have come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword." But verses 35 and 36, well, verse 35 then goes on to quote from Micah chapter 7, verse 6, from the Tanakh, from the Nevi'im and the Tanakh, the prophet Micah. Chapter 7, verse 6, "For I am come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law." And then verse 36 goes on to say, "And a man's foes shall be they of his own household," which is, verse 36 is essentially paraphrasing verse 35, which is Micah 7:6. This is quoted in Matthew as the justification for the statement in verse 34, "Think not that I have come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword," meaning division. So does this disqualify Yeshua as being the Messiah? No. Let's see what the Talmud says about Micah chapter 7, verse 6. Babylonian Talmud, Sanhedrin 97a. That's Babylonian Talmud, Sanhedrin, page 97a. We read, and this is right here in your handouts, "It has been taught, Rabbi Naharai said, in the generation when Messiah comes, young men will insult the old, and old men will stand before the young to give them honor. Daughters will rise up against their mothers, and daughters-in-law against their mothers-in-law." This is quoting Micah 7:6 again. "The people shall be dog-faced, and a son will not be abashed in his father's presence." Again, Sanhedrin 97a. So this is the generation when Messiah comes. And it's quoting Micah chapter 7, verse 6 again. Now, one might see, if one is using equal weights and balances, one might say, if one is using the same rules to judge Matthew chapter 10 here, verses 34 through 36, if one uses the same rule then to interpret or to criticize or to weigh Babylonian Talmud Sanhedrin 97a, one might turn around and say, well then, this is wrong because Rabbi Nahoria is wrong because he's quoting Micah 7:6 as describing the generation when Messiah comes, and the Messiah is supposed to bring peace on earth, not the fulfillment of Micah 7:6, right? Right? Maybe, I don't know. Well, maybe we could say Rabbi Nehoria is wrong. After all, if you understand how the Talmud works, there are opinions that aren't necessarily the majority opinions. Unfortunately, in this case, this is commentary on a passage of Mishnah. So the Gemara here is actually commenting upon a passage in the Mishnah in Tractate So this is actually drawing from a passage that appears in the Mishnah in Sotah 9, chapter 9, Mishnah 15, which is also quoting Micah, goes into quoting Micah 7:6. So let's read it. It says, "Upon whom is it for us to rely? Upon our Father who is in heaven? In the footsteps of the Messiah, insolence will increase and honor dwindle. The vine will yield its fruit abundantly, but wine will be dear. The government will turn in heresy, and there will be none to offer them reproof. The meeting place of the scholars will be used for immorality. Galilee will be destroyed, Gabaon desolated, and the dwellers on the frontier will go about begging from place to place without anyone to take pity on them. The wisdom of the learned will be degenerate, fearers of sin will be despised, and the truth will be lacking. Youths will put old men to shame. The old will stand up in the presence of the young. A son will revile his father. A daughter will rise against her mother. A daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a son's enemies will be the members of his household." This is quoting Micah 7:6 again. "The face of the generation will be like the face of a dog." See, this is what is being referred to here there in the Gemara. "A son will not feel ashamed before his father, so upon whom is it for us to rely? Upon our Father who is in heaven." Notice that this is described in the Mishnah at the very top at the beginning here as the footsteps of the Messiah. Interesting. So the division and the insolence that is characterized by the fulfillment of Micah chapter 7 verse 6 is described in the Mishnah by the Tanim as the footsteps of the Messiah. Well, why wouldn't one say then that the Mishnah must be wrong? From a rabbinic standpoint, why wouldn't one say the Mishnah must be wrong? Because the footsteps of the Messiah doesn't bring all these things. It doesn't bring the fulfillment of Micah 7:6 and all of this division. The Messiah brings peace on earth. So how can this passage say that the Micah 7:6 is the footsteps of the Messiah? So here we have it. Yes, Matthew chapter 10 verses 34 through 36 says, "Think not I am come to send peace on." Messiah is speaking, Yeshua is speaking, saying, "Think not that I came to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. For I come to set a man at variance against his," and then quotes Micah 7:6, "For I come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law." And then verse 36 summarizes that, "And a man's foes will be they of his own household." And this does not conflict with what we understand about the Messiah, because Micah 7:6 is a messianic prophecy. It's recognized in both the Mishnah and the Talmud as a messianic prophecy. as describing in Sanhedrin 97a, the generation when Messiah comes, and in describing in the Mishnah, the footsteps of the Messiah. So it's actually perfectly in keeping with our Jewish understanding of the role of the Messiah, that the coming of Messiah is indeed characterized by the fulfillment of Micah chapter 7 verse 6 and the division that creates, and the conflicts that creates, and the sword of division versus the peace of Matthew chapter 10 verse 34. So there is no conflict. Matthew 10:34 doesn't indicate that Yeshua is not the Messiah. In fact, Matthew 10 verses 34 through 36 are a evidence, one of literally hundreds, that Yeshua was in fact the Messiah and fulfilled the very passages that are regarded in the rabbinic literature, in this case the Mishnah and the Gemara, as, i.e. the Talmud, as being messianic prophecies. And so I don't know what more I can say about that. Messiah in his first coming, in his coming and in the role of Messiah ben Yosef, absolutely comes to fulfill, or came to fulfill Micah chapter 7 verse 6, and to create division characterized by a sword that divides things. And this is testified to in the Mishnah and the Gemara, and is perfectly in keeping with the role of Messiah, and literally, well, not in figuratively, the footsteps of the Messiah as described in the Mishnah. All right, one last time before we go here, I want to encourage you to please donate to support this work. You can do that by clicking on the donate link in the video description. We need your support. Donations are low right now, so please consider donating to support this work. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, click the notifications bell so that you'll get notified when new videos come out, and share these videos with your friends on social media, and let us know what you think in the comments section, so that all these things help the algorithm, so that YouTube will recommend these videos to new viewers. All right, shalom everybody, until next time.